Hey family, welcome to the Jamal Bryant podcast, where we are building a bridge from the streets to the sanctuary, from the church to the culture, and from the pulpit into politics. These are conversations that will in fact empower you, equip you, and encourage you. I'm so grateful to have a privilege of the opportunity to share with you, and there's so much on my mind that I can't keep it to myself. I need you to please share this with everybody you know. If you're not already following it, I need you to subscribe to the Jamal Bryant podcast. Over 120,000 of you are in the inner circle, but I need to raise up our troops. It's a whole lot going on, and I got to give it to you straight so that there are no shades of gray. There was recently a great splash and hoopla about the performance at halftime of the Super Bowl. The act has just been announced. After it is that Kendrick Lamar ripped up the stage last year, everybody was on bated breath to see who would be the performer. Will it be Lil Wayne? Or is it going to be somebody else? Well, somebody else. It was just announced that the halftime performer for this year's Super Bowl is Bad Bunny. And immediately those who were on the MAGA train were outraged, alarmed, and offended because they erroneously thought Bad Bunny was an illegal immigrant. None of them clearly went to sixth grade geography class to discover that Puerto Rico is, in fact, under the umbrella of the United States of America. Knowledge is power. Reading is fundamental. They couldn't believe because they thought it was going to be an immigration story, not knowing that Bad Bunny has been fighting a good fight. In the words of John Lewis, he's engaged in good trouble. He said because of all of what is taking place around immigration and the directed targeting against his culture and his community, that he was going to do all of his shows in Puerto Rico. That if you wanted to see him, you had to go there. But having the heart of those who are in his country and his community, a part of his culture, there is a reduced price just for you to buy tickets. It was, in fact, a direct intention to surge tourism in Puerto Rico. And thus far, it is working. The only time he's going to leave Puerto Rico is to come to the halftime show. Now, the reason why this is significant, let's be clear, is the halftime show is for a much larger audience than those who watch football. It is, in fact, to bring in, to allure a global audience. The NFL has been intentional. That's why they have games in London and in Germany, trying to expand the terrain or the astroturf, as it were, of the footprint of the NFL. And the critical question that you've got to be asking is, why did they choose Bad Bunny? Stephen A. Smith, controversial sports commentator, said that this was Jay-Z's choice. Running and ruling Roc Nation, it was a strategic pivot when many thought that it was going to be Taylor Swift, even though her demands were not met. But there is something deeper, and I'm going into the rabbit hole. Clutch your pearls. Reach for your asthma pump. You ain't gonna believe what I'm getting ready to tell you. Forget Roc Nation. Forget the National Football League. I want you to consider who is the sponsor for the halftime show. You didn't know it, did you? The sponsor this year is Apple. Pastor Bryant, Jamal, Doc, I'm lost. What in the world does this have to do with Bad Bunny? Well, Apple is now set to release its latest iteration of its AirPods. The AirPods that are able to translate in any language. So Bad Bunny, while most of his songs are going to be in Spanish, the drive is to push you to buy the new AirPods so that you can hear the translation in real time. It wasn't a political move. It wasn't a cultural move. It was a financial move of commercialism and capitalism walking hand in hand, scoring a touchdown. The larger issue that we've got to contend with is Apple has answered the question that many of you all are missing: who's in your ear? What are you listening to? The Sinclair family said that in spite of the negotiations with Jimmy Kimmel and finding a peace treaty with Disney, that many of their stations were no longer going to share the Jimmy Kimmel show. I don't know who's in the ear of the Sinclair family, but they don't even realize that linear television is dead. His viewings went through the roof because people aren't watching their local channel. They're watching online and streaming. It's the heartbeat of where it is that things are going. My dear brother Van Jones says something that I still can't wrap my head around. He said that AI is the last chance for black people to get reparations. I'm in a chokehold. I'm in a deer in headlights looking for Bambi. No way that is true. When think about how many people have received reparations and we got to sit behind a computer to get ours, it's absolutely untrue and it's unfounded. And while the government was shut down, what should be added into the bill is how do we pay black people back for their blood, for their sweat, for their tears. The reality is there would be no Wall Street without black people. The reality is it was off of the sweat of the brow of your uncles and your grandfathers that there is a White House. I'm telling you, cotton became king while they made black people look like jesters. We made this nation a large commodity, and somebody's got convenient amnesia, or what many people speculate is early dementia. It's a critical time, and I needed to understand who is in your ear. What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Where are you getting your news? Where are you getting your information? Data has come back that 43% of black preachers have addressed what's happening in politics and in culture and in society. 43%. And the question I got to ask is, what are the other 67% even talking about? I was inundated in my algorithm by so many Caucasian people who said they were leaving their church because their pastor did not discuss Charlie Kirk. Not that their pastor didn't quote Jesus or didn't say anything about compassion or Medicaid or Medicare or about the housing crisis or unemployment. Who's in your ear? A whole lot that we've got to discuss, a whole lot that we got to deliberate, a whole lot that we got to unpack. And I can't wait for the new AirPods to come out to translate for you what's happening in the culture. I'm mind blown. If it weren't for the false report that Robert Kennedy gave out last week that Tylenol is the cause of autism, I would take two and go lay down. But the reality is it does not cause autism because autism was discovered before Tylenol was ever founded. Who is in your ear? It's a debate going around from black pastors, black preachers, black influencers who are unintelligibly declaring and decrying that there is no such thing as a black church. And that's true if you don't live in America. But if you live in America, the most segregated hour in this nation is 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. I am a third-generation son of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the oldest black denomination in this country. Started in 1787, the same year that this nation was certified. And in a little church in Philadelphia called St. George's Episcopal Church, a gentleman by the name of Richard Allen was on his knees praying. An usher tapped him on the shoulder and asked him to get up from the altar so that a late arriving congregant could be able to pray. Can you imagine? I'm not talking about a water fountain. I'm not talking about a bus in Montgomery. I'm not talking about a lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, at an altar. And they're not even in the South. In Philadelphia, the land of liberty. Let brotherly love continue. Go Eagles. In Philadelphia, at that time, in 1787, all of the black people were regulated to sit in the balcony. Richard Allen pivoted, gave a head nod, almost like Malcolm X did in the Spike Lee movie, and said, "Everybody, let's roll out." They walked out of St. George's Episcopal Church, the black people did, went a few blocks down the street to a business that Richard Allen owned, an anvil shop, and started their own church. The black church was birthed out of the racism in this country. The black church was birthed out of segregation in this country. The black church was birthed out of inequality in this country. And I would love to ascribe to the notion that the black church is not necessary or it does not exist, but racism still exists. Inequality still exists. Discrimination still exists. And as a consequence, the black church still exists. It's in the black church that we first learned how to read and write. In the black church, out of its womb, became the birthing station of historically black colleges and universities. In the black church is the very first place where black people could hold a title and hold a position. In the black church is the first place that black men were not called boy, but deacon so-and-so, Mr. so-and-so, brother so-and-so. God help a generation that does not see the historical value and the significance and the present day power of the prophetic tradition of the black church. The black church that is able to cry loud and spare not, and because of it, you have great generals of the gospel emerging. People like Howard John Wesley, Alfred Street Baptist Church, Arlington, Virginia, who spoke out and decried about how America responded to the murder of Charlie Crist, trying to deify him and whitewash much of what it is that he said. It is only in America that you can be impugned and lose your job for actually quoting somebody. It's the black church that gives us the genius of Otis Moss III at Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago, Illinois, who every week just asked for 5 minutes so that he could break down and give an autopsy to what's taking place below the headlines. It's in the black church that a Marcus Cosby at a Wheeler Avenue in Houston, Texas, I will begin to speak and do so without any cowardice, but met with bomb threats. So much so that the police had to come through and check, only because, you're not going to believe it, he actually exercised the freedom of speech. The black pastor, the black pulpit, the black church is significant because that's where they got their marching orders for the Underground Railroad, where they figured out what was the path to freedom. Be leery, be cautious of those who want to put sand on the footsteps and act like that part of our history doesn't exist or that part of our reality is not necessary. Long live the Black church. Let's not be confused. Come on, let's not play dumb or coy. It's always been two different Christianities in this country. Let's not forget it was in the white American church that they began to lambast that we didn't have souls or a conscience. It was out of that Americana church that they were able to alleviate their conscience of our maltreatment by reducing us in the Constitution by saying we were only 3/5 of a human being. Don't forget, before we ever got on these shores on the Gold Coast of Ghana, while it is that we were hobbled in corners, in jails, in castles, above us before it is that we embarked on the Middle Passage were churches. Y'all gonna come to me and say that there is no Black church? You've been hearing two different gospels, two different interpretations, and two understandings. To be able to say aloud that the thing that weakened this country is empathy? When Jesus said, "What you do to the least of these is how you treat me." And they said, "Master, when did we do this?" And he said, "What did you do to the poor, to the widow, to the orphan?" Amazing Black womanist, feminist theologian Jackie Grant says it this way: a white woman's Christ is a Black woman's Jesus. While on the surface it's the same thing, but you deal with the guts and the glory of who he is, you understand it completely different. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't work for Apple, but I want to know who's translating what's in your ear. How are you understanding what is taking place? And what do you see for yourself and for your future if you're not hearing it correctly? Recently, the Department of War brought together their generals, their admirals, their corporals from around the world for a pep rally like they was at a high school homecoming weekend. They began to go back and forth about the rudiments of shaving and what it means to pledge allegiance to authoritarianism and fascism. They have put in now their booklet that you can't even serve, hear this, if you got razor bumps. Who does that dismiss from the armed services? Black men. Brothers and sisters, 82% of those with razor bumps are Black people. Who are they trying to get out of the armed services? Black people. And I'm curious to know why it is that they would want to purge the most patriotic sector of this country. There's not been one military infraction in the history of this nation where Black people were not on the front line. From Crispus Attucks all the way to Colin Powell, we have always put our hand on our chest. We have always paid our taxes and saluted the flag, but now they're trying to purge us from serving in armed services. It's a critical moment. It's in dire straits. I'm trying to figure out what is the intention and the mind behind it. Maybe it is the picture in their mind of a Black man holding a gun, even though we too have the constitutional right to bear arms. It's a good place for me to give you a historical footnote and asterisk that after the Black Panthers started carrying weapons, that's the very first time that the NRA wanted to recalibrate what their policy and what their ideology is. I'm telling you, if y'all want gun control to happen in America, have Black men go register weapons in droves. I'm telling you, that bill will pass. That bill will pass faster than Donald Trump can put a new gold statue in the Oval Office. It will go so fast. There is an intended violation and invasion. Black cities and black communities all over this country. Initially, when it is that they rolled it out, they said that it was around immigration and illegal immigration. But we have seen, albeit gradually and subtly, that they're shifting the focus to black cities. Washington, D.C., black mayor. Chicago, Illinois, black mayor. Memphis, Tennessee, black mayor. They're trying to really extract the authority of black leadership in major cities. And they're not saying anything aloud on the press, on the news, in the media, on Fox, that where these black mayors are, crime is going down. It's actually in red states that crime is going up. But y'all don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear how it is that America has painted a false narrative, how that we are the criminals, but all of the mass shootings are by young white men. And you calling me a race baiter? That I'm being divisive? Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting the news. If you don't like what you're hearing in your ear, listen some more, because I still got something else to say. I am so proud. I'm so proud of the committee of the Nobel Peace Prize. The committee at the Nobel Peace Prize issued out a statement last week that Donald John Trump, the sitting president of the United States of America, is not fit to receive a peace prize. Forget about the fake wars that he claims that he closed and ended, that they have still had no resolves, or the civil war that he is trying to bait right here in the United States of America. They said one singular signal sign that the president was not about peace is he's renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War. Just that one single word change has cost the budget $1 billion. You can't say that you follow the Prince of Peace and you're celebrating and throwing confetti for the art of war. They brought in much foolishness by announcing to the world that the heads of all of their military positions from bases around the country were coming to Quantico, Virginia. They brought them in for a 45-minute speech. And it looked like, y'all think I'm joking, go back and watch it. It looked like they was introducing a new Apple product. They sitting out on stage. They have absolutely nothing to say, no directives. And the crowd absolutely did not go wild. They sat there, almost sending each other telepathic messages. We came all this way for this? What are the marching orders? President Trump said going into that meeting that he can fire whoever it is that he likes, whoever it is that he doesn't like. And part of the reason why he silently was exuberant about the shutting down of the government is he wants to be able to write laws and to change positions and to curate policies that go against the poor. I want to put it on record right here on this podcast that we need an emergency meeting of all of the generals. All of the generals in our community need to come together under one roof. The heads of the Divine Nine, the heads of the black professional organizations, the presidents of HBCUs, the heads of those historic civil rights groups, the heads of community organizations, the heads of grassroots organizations, because, ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't been paying attention, they are declaring war on the poor, on the young, on the uneducated, on the unemployed, on the veterans, and on the uninsured. In military history, it will be recorded that America will not be able to claim Vietnam as a victory because we never declared war. Well, I want to go on record that I have declared war on Target and any Fortune 500 company who has rolled back their policies on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ain't no stopping us now. We on the move. They've lost stock, they've lost valuation, they've lost foot traffic, and as of lately, they have just lost 500 Starbucks that are in Targets. Shots fired. Ladies and gentlemen, in the words of Charles Jenkins, this means war. We've got to be able to roll up our sleeves. We have to fight the good fight of faith. And more than that, I wanted to remind you that I'm not really a podcaster. I'm actually a preacher. And the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty unto God for the pulling down of strongholds. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality in high places. Ladies and gentlemen, Q's track right here. Lace up your boots. Put on your backpacks. Let's ride. How are we gonna fight? I'm not asking you to get a Molotov cocktail. I'm not asking you to write your name on the side of a bullet. Let's go to war by doing selective buying. Only participating in consumption in places that have dignity over our dollars. Let's go to war. Make sure you register to vote for this midterm election because there's a whole lot on the line, and Speaker Johnson does not want to confirm the newest elected congressional representatives because he's afraid they're going to vote for the release of the Epstein files. Let's go to war. Let's raise up a new generation of young people who will be public servants, who will run for everything from school board to county commissioners. Let's go to war. Let's support Black banks and Black businesses. Let's go to war. Let's hold up a standard for Black churches because just because it's filled with Black people, if it doesn't have a Black agenda and Black consciousness, it is not a Black church. Let's go to war. And the soundtrack while we fight is Let There Be Peace on Earth, and let it begin with me. I love y'all. Let's fight the good fight. And in case you were not clear, I hope you're clear now, because in the words of Craig Mack, it's a new flavor in your ear. I'll see you next time. Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Some other stuff that I got to tell you, but I can only tell it to my subscribers. I'll meet you next door.